situation, and they shared with us how we can better prepare for the upcoming academic year as we transition to distance learning. Ngayon naman po, this week may mga kasamahan tayong leap mayors na nagpaalam dahil apparently ay dumadami na ang cases sa ibang areas sa provinces. So we highly encourage you po, bilang isang pa rin itong fellowship kahit hindi tayo nagkikita-kita personally, please keep in touch with each other, lalo na po yung magkakalapit ng bayan dahil who knows, you might have similar cases, situations, and contacts na pwedeng ibahagi sa isa't isa. So we highly encourage you po to keep in touch with your LEAP fellows. So moving on, this Saturday is our fourth webinar of the series, and our topic is data management and public communication for COVID-19 response. I would now like to introduce our first speaker. Our first speaker is a proud scholar ng bayan who continues to serve his country. He serves as the director of the University of the Philippines Nationwide Operational Assessment of Hazards, while balancing also his responsibilities as the executive director of the University of the Philippines Resilience Institute. He specializes in earth sciences, a degree he acquired from the University of Cambridge. He is also the first Asian to receive the Plinius Medal by the European Geosciences Union for outstanding achievements in interdisciplinary natural hazard research and natural disaster engagement in the Philippines. Aside from these achievements, he has also published journal articles, mostly in international ISI journals. Through all these, he maintains a reputable status in his field of expertise in the international scientific community. So to discuss importance of data management in times of crisis, please all welcome Dr. Alfredo Mahar Lagmay.
I'd just like to ask a question. 2 days ago, I presented also to the Jesse Robredo Foundation, and I see some similar names, no? Parang same names. Am I speaking to more or less the same audience or bago po itong audience natin ngayon?
Ito pong LEAP ay puro local chief executives, puro mayor. So may iilan pong nandun sa isang webinar, but this is a news set po.
New set ito.
Yes.
Okay. Since merong maraming mayor dito sa talk na to, I think I'd rather parang present halfway yung website na ginagamit namin na nilabas namin for the benefit of the mayors. They might want to take a look at it. But in the meantime, I'll first give a brief introduction on what we've been doing dito sa UP Resilience Institute and the UP Pandemic Response Team. So if you'll allow me, I'll just show to you the PowerPoint, first few slides, and then later on, I will proceed demonstrating the website that we have made, particularly for LGUs, no? For LGUs. So maybe I can start it. Okay, I cannot share anything. I think the setting should be changed so that I can share the share content. Hello?
Kuya Ken, pa-co-host please. Thank you.
Yes. Good afternoon, mayors.
Ayan.
Okay,
You can
pwede na?
Yes po.
I can share. Okay. Um, I would like to start by going to the directly to the encov.ph site. No, that is spelled endcov.ph, and we made this website not really to duplicate what DOH is doing, but rather to put added value doon sa DOH tracker and DOH website. So just a minute, let me see. Ay, sorry, dinown pala nila ngayon. It's under maintenance. So I have to go to the presentation. All right. Um, it's under maintenance pala ngayon. I remembered my developer telling me. But I think this evening it will be up again. So I'll be talking about COVID-19 effective strategies for LGUs in the use of data technology during crisis. It's done by the UP Pandemic Response Team. It's composed of a lot of professors, researchers, volunteers from the different University of the Philippines constituent units. No, all eight of them distributed nationwide, all the way from UP Baguio to UP Mindanao. There are statisticians, mathematicians, epidemiologists, doctors, mappers, disaster specialists, etc. And they've all banded together to create transdisciplinary work in the country's efforts to battle or combat the ill effects of SARS-CoV-2, which is the virus that causes COVID-19. Uh, you may be very familiar with this. DOH regularly updates on a daily basis the statistics, the numbers, absolute numbers on the active cases, total cases recovered, how many died, and some breakdown on symptomatic, mild, etc. Uh, all of these are information that are very important and often do get misinterpreted, no? Depending on the perspective or depending on the agenda. Sometimes there's no agenda. These numbers are interpreted in many ways. No? So there are what we call as keyboard warriors, especially after the fact, everybody is a genius, case-to-case basis. Especially if it's local, merong mga cases na hindi pareho dun sa iba. No? SARS-CoV-2 is poorly understood. There are changing advisories from the World Health Organization and local authorities as well. The perspective of whether you are pro-economy or pro-health. No? So marami in social media, you find heated debates, no? Mga discussions. And the presentation of the numbers would depend, no? Would depend on perspective. So others include new discoveries as the crisis unfolds, nature of scientific opinion. That's always being discussed. No? Whenever there's something that is proposed or presented, it's always put under critical investigation. So there's a lot of debate that ensues, as well as other things that cause the varying interpretations for the numbers that are released by DOH. And my job is to clarify some of these things because it's important to communicate the numbers, no? The analytics, what they mean. Because the numbers are very important because they can determine the type of decisions that are made by the authorities. And policy decisions would affect the turn of events. So we don't want to have confusion from the different interpretations of the numbers. So hopefully I'll be able to explain what these numbers mean, how do we use these numbers for planning to win against COVID-19, um, how we should explain the data to the decision maker so that the data are understandable. So I've realized, being also part of some of the meetings of IATF, I get invited in some of the the technical working group meetings. and sometimes to Malacanang, I do see that sometimes there are misinterpretations of the data. And all the way up to the president, sometimes the numbers are not communicated or presented well. So what I'll try to do here is to try to clarify and try to make it understandable so that the communication of the very, very important numbers and analytics as basis for decision making can be sent to the appropriate to the authorities without much confusion. So I'll try to do that because it's very, very important now that we know that certain policy decisions like the ECQ, which is marked in red, the MECQ marked as orange there, and the GCQ, we are still in GCQ. There was a request to extend it for NCR, and you can see that the type of intervention affects the numbers. So there's a green line at the back that you see. So before March 2016, the the numbers kept on rising very steeply. When we implemented ECQ, there was a plateau in the line, and then it started going down and then started going up again. So by the time that MECQ was implemented, it was still on the rise, and then went down. Then GCQ was implemented, and suddenly there was a very, very steep rise. And it's still rising very steeply as I speak. I think yesterday we had again more than 2,000 cases. And there's still a gap, there's still a backlog for validation, more than 20,000, probably around 25,000. And that needs to be added into the graph that is being shown here in this slide. So policy decisions greatly affect the turn of events and the numbers. So it's very important that the numbers and the analytics are communicated well, because if the policies are wrongly implemented, it will influence events, the turnout, and the impact is on all of us. No? Me, you, everybody, our families, etc. So we try to avoid, we would like to, at least we strive hard to communicate the analytics or the understanding of these numbers to get the decision makers to make good decisions. No? Everything must be science-based, founded or anchored on good logic and science. And hopefully, with the good science, we may be able to address the COVID problem better than, well, at least what we've been doing for the past few years. Because it's a public health issue. No? It affects a lot of things. You have to complement it with knowledge or information from other aspects. It's a public health issue, and therefore, it's not only the analysis that's important. You have to get the people who monitor, who do surveillance, who do outbreaks, epidemic, disease prevention, communication, risk, research, and health promotion in the team, so that all of these can reach the authorities. So when I speak of authorities, it may be at different levels. No? For local level, it's you, the mayors, who are very important. And it's also important that we communicate not only at the national level, but also get that communication understood in timely manner down to community level, hopefully up to barangay level. We want to have science. No? In the UK, that's being practiced. Here in the Philippines, there are a lot of scientists that get uh, get consulted, but hopefully it would be more, no, than what we have now. No? And dapat mas active yung engagement. Something like a scientific advisory group for emergencies, what the UK people called SAGE, that brief the what they call as the COBR, or Cabinet Office Briefing Room, and that comes out as policies when the ministers implement them. We have that ncov.ph dashboard. It shows all of these data sets. No? The same things that you find in the DOH because it comes mainly from the DOH data drop. That data drop has continuously improved through the months, but it can be improved some more, no, in terms of the data that is being provided in those, because the data is very important because the public deserves it, no? And need it to build trust and confidence in the government efforts. Now, you can see here in map view the active cases. We've tried to do some analytics for that. Instead of just the map cases, we tried to do the probability of outbreak because it's not just the absolute number of active cases that we need to look at. We need to look at the density as well of the population. There's a direct link between the threshold of the probability of outbreak between the active cases and the density of the population. So that is reflected in this graph, which we call as the probability of outbreak. And on April 18, 2020, you can see that not much of the Philippines were affected or was affected. But by the time June 26 happened or came, you can see that more and more of the cities and municipalities had colored blue uh, signed in that map. No? And then by July 14, there were more and more. This goes to show that we were not able to take advantage of the archipelagic nature of the Philippines because that would have protected the spread of or protected the people from getting infected by those who had SARS-CoV-2. We were not able to take advantage of it. I say that because you can see very well that the islands turned from white to blue in a couple of months. So now we have those areas marked in the third panel as dark blue, which means that the probability of outbreak is 99% and more. So again, we put them in maps to be able to visualize the spread of COVID-19 or the spread of the disease. We have other metrics. What we're trying to do is really to drill down to local areas. No? We've been successful doing the probability of outbreak for the provincial level and for the city level, but it has taken us 4 months already to get it down to barangay level. So it's quite difficult because the statistics is quite difficult as well. And data availability at barangay level is also not the same. We do, however, analytics at barangay level for NCR, except for Valenzuela, because they don't like to provide the what do you call this, the barangay level data to others like universities, no, but maybe if we try some more we can get the barangay level data from them. Okay, so this one is the active cases per 100,000 population, no? So you can take a look at this in ncov ph, and you can see the distribution of the density of active cases per 100,000 population. Maybe this is the kind of map or visualization that the LGU would need to provide hazard-specific, time-bound, and area-focused interventions, no, or actions. We do want to make it happen, or this kind of map for the entire Philippines, or at least for those that are affected by COVID-19. And if we do so, the lockdowns or the policy decisions may be more specific than general. As you may have noticed that during the earlier months, we had maps that showed provinces, and then later on, decisions were based on municipality. And now, I think the government has transferred already the onus or the actions to be made by the LGUs. So if the LGUs are to be made responsible, they would need data as well. I'd like to uh, I'm happy to announce that all of these products that you're seeing or that I'm showing are all available at the ncov.ph site, just for you to take advantage of. Apart from that, there we have COVID-19 hospitals, testing centers, quarantine facilities, the numbers of these hospitals, as well as some epidemic curves. No, so we find here the epidemic curve, the RT, or what we call as the time varying uh, reproduction number of the Philippines. We have that per city and municipality, and we have epidemic curves of the Philippines as well, which is the one on the right panel. Now, it is available for provincial level. Again, this is very important because the goal really for the LGU is to get the number one. This is one metric by which you can find out whether your interventions or your actions or your efforts are doing any good or not. No? If the value of R is at 1 or less, then you are winning. But if the value of R is increasing and more than 1, then you are losing. So this is one metric that can be very useful for the LGUs because we provide this per city and municipality based on the DOH data. There you go. This is the municipality level. That's Quezon City. So you can see right away, if you look at the left panel, it is above 1. It is somewhere along 1.1.4, I think, at the time when this screen was captured on July 23, a couple of days ago. And you know that they are still not winning. No? That means that they have to ramp up their efforts for for contact tracing, testing, isolation, and etc., as well as other interventions that are necessary. Apart from that, there are projections on the cumulative number of cases. You can see here that the projection that we're making, that we made as early as a couple of weeks ago, is projected upper bound of 84,515. Nakailan ba tayo as of yesterday? Hello? Nakailan na tayo as of yesterday? Can you still hear me?
Yes po.
Okay. Nakailan na tayo as of yesterday? Na cumulative cases?
Let me check.
Okay. Wala. No, nobody knows. But I think it's roughly around, if I'm not mistaken, almost at that number, 80,000 plus. No? Baka umabot tayo dyan.
76,000, sir.
Malapit na, 76,000. So the mean cumulative count is 75,866. So assuming that we get 2,000 per day, no? Yun. So that's roughly around the upper bound in this projection that we made several weeks ago. But that's regularly updated. It's not to stoke fear amongst people, but it's really to inspire the people to do more action and to inspire the LGUs to strive harder to be able to win the war against COVID-19. Now, there's another facility that we make available at city and municipal level. It's called Back to the Pink of Health. No? Kasi pink of health is associated with something that is good. No? Pink lungs, you don't smoke, you don't have cancer. So if the color in that graph has more pink than blue, then that means that you are winning. No? So the goal is really to get it back to the pink of health. So what we're trying to do here is to make the analysis the metrics more understandable to the people. And every day we try to think of ways by which to do that. You can also take a look for easy access. I know this is available in other websites, but since you're in this website as well, we have some partners with UC Davis, and you can see the trends of total cases, case incidents, death rates, etc. In comparison with other countries worldwide. And this one, since there are many mayors here, I hope that you have seen this DILG memorandum. It's dated April 28th. Hopefully, you have input data into this website. That website is the NCOV PH, NCOV.ph website that I've been showing to you. You know? The reason why we had this was because at the time, or at that time, April 28th, there were discrepancies between the numbers being given by the LGUs and DOH. And we noticed that the problem was really because of the nature of collection, or the system of collection, wherein there are signatures that are being made at LGU level, and then at regional level, and then it's passed to national level. So that will all have to be encoded. But what we wanted to establish at that point in time was a quicker way through technology to be able to gather all of the data sets on a daily basis nationwide. So we came up with this. It's called as the NCOV.ph quick count system. And so far, we've been able to get 942 municipalities. No? It's quite difficult to get everybody involved, but the municipality is just supposed to input the number of active cases, number of recovered, number of suspected, number of probable, number of deaths, no? So that they can immediately get statistics similar to what I've shown in the past few slides. I don't know if I will have to explain this again. Maybe everybody knows it, but for the benefit of everybody, so that it's just clear, there's much talk about flattening of the curve in media. And there's a lot of confusion about flattening the curve. I'm sure you've seen that, no? But let me explain to you what our concept of the flattening of the curve is, no? Just to make it clear, if you go to Google, you will see all of these figures, all of these hits showing the same thing. What's similar to all of these hits are that the images show two curves, one higher, well, you have the higher peak, and one with a lower peak. Okay, so look at them one by one. They're all the same as that one, because that particular diagram came from where it originated, which is the Center for Diseases Control and Prevention, or what we know as the CDC. So let's examine that. There are two curves, two bell curves. They because it looks like a bell. One is a steep bell curve, filled in by violet color, and one is a small bell. No, bell parang kampana. No? And the reason why it's called flattening of the curve is because it came from a high peak state to a low peak state. No, so it's actually, that one is modeled. That's if we did not do any intervention or draconian measure. The flattened curve is what what is going to happen, no? While we take the course of time, and you cannot travel through two paths in time, so you can only have one. It's either you did the intervention or you did not do the intervention. You can only follow one curve. And the reason why according to CDC, we need to flatten the curve is because there cannot be more cases than the hospital care system. Because if the hospitals, the medical professionals, doctors are overwhelmed, nurses, etc., everything that you can associate with hospitals, if they are overwhelmed, the number of patients or all the patients will not be accommodated. There will be some that will be accommodated, but those beyond the hospital capacity will not be anymore accommodated. Simply because there are no more facilities, no more doctors. Now, the estimate of UP when the crisis started, that was sometime in March. No, we tried to do models, or several UP groups made models. The the total number of cases throughout the duration of the crisis was about 1.5 to 3.5 million. The PIDS did the models and they came up with 23 to 29 million. Ateneo also did it. They came up with values much higher than UP. AIM the same, but I could not put them here because they are not published. And despite the discrepancies, no, it was still an estimate, a projection of the number of cases. And they say that all models are wrong, but they can be useful. Now, what actually happened? So all of those graphs, all of those bars that you see in green are the data coming from DOH. And you can see that as of this time that I put this, no, it was 57,006. Now it's already 75 plus, no, as reported kanina. No? So it's much lower than the value of the peak of the violet curve if we did not do the intervention. Actually, the peak of that violet curve, according to our modelers, is 80,000 per day. 80,000 per day. Right now, with the flat with that curve, we are only having as much as 2,000, give or take. Let's say nagkamali sila or whatever you want to accuse them of. So 2,000 or doblehin natin 4,000. It's still much lower than the 80,000 per day peak that what the three groups of UP model. So, but in terms of the cumulative, no, not per day, no, I was saying about 80,000 sa peak kanina, but actually we're having more than 2,000 per day now. But if you total the number of cases there under that small curve, it would total yung mga 75,000, and by July 30 it would be probably around 85,000 people cumulative. No? Yung tinotal mo lahat yung mga numbers per day. Now, is there any manifestation for the successful flattening of the curve in terms of the concept of the CDC or the Centers for Diseases Control and Prevention? Kasi ang concept natin, kailangan mas konti ang patients than the hospital care system capacity. And you can see also in this graph that the peak has been delayed in time. No? So imbis na nangyari mas maaga, na delay. So the reason for that delay is for us to be able to prepare more equipment, prepare more facilities to address the COVID-19 problem and for the hospital care system to accommodate more. Meron nga bang nangyaring ganito? At a certain point in time, I think in June, there were many beds that were not occupied. ICUs, critical care facilities were not totally used. However, but before I go to the however, we also increased the 75 labs nationwide from 5 in March to 75 laboratories nationwide by July 4, 2020. This is according to SecVin's DSON. The goal by July 2020 is to have total tests conducted per day na 30,000. I'm not sure if umabot na dyan, but I know it's not 561. And before, I knew that it was already more than 10,000. No? But really, the goal, they're saying by July 2020. Maybe somebody can Google that later. We can easily Google that. How many tests we actually do. So iba yung we actually do na per day na tests doon sa capacity, no? Kasi may claim na this is the capacity, but actually ang nagagawa lang ay so much. So the lab capacity, which is different from yung nagagawa kanina, increased by 25 times since April. So in March, we only had 2,000 capacity per day. Now, as of July 3, we had maximum rated capacity per day of 74,304. And they're promising, I don't know if this will happen. I don't know if that 1 million has happened yet. Maybe there's something wrong with this. But June 2021, they say they want to be able to test 10 million. But these one are actually true, no? Kasi these are physical setups that are easy to validate with the collaboration of the private sector, like basically lahat ng mga private sector big companies na nakikita ko nandito eh. So they've invested, yung Vistaland, Ayala, Philinvest, the BDO Group, no? You can see them contributing and helping out the government on this. But there's another meaning of flattening of the curve, no? So bago tayo pumunta doon, so nakapag-invest tayo, nakapag-prepare because of the time delay. So meron namang manifestation that we prepared. However, yung flattening of the curve has taken different meanings, no? Because the consultants of DOH have been saying that the flattening of the curve based on the doubling time, which is that graph there, no? Which is this graph. If you take a look at the blue line, yung number of cases, sabi ng consultant and DOH is that the curve has been flattened. So that is the curve now, no? From a steeply rising curve, naging mas gentler yung slope. No? Hindi, kumbaga sa bundok, hindi matarik. No? There are arguments though that when this was released that it's flattened, the public got angry. I mean, that's not flat, that's going up. A flat line is like that. So, meron ng arguments na kaagad, no? And it took a lot of attention sa social media, and there are many saying that we have not yet flattened the curve. No. And even some from the same university as the consultant of DOH, John Wong, says that no, we have not yet flattened the curve, similar to the way South Korea has done it. Okay, so that sa pataas pa rin. So that means that we have not flattened the curve. Now, this one is a very famous graph, no? And coronavirus.com. Hello? Sound check lang. Sound check. Can you still hear me?
Yes po, loud and clear.
All right. Okay, thank you. Okay, the Philippines. So that graph shows a steeply rising curve, no? It's a steeply rising curve. That's the one yung in-isolate ko lang. Now, I put it back to the discussion kanina of flattening of the curve. Again, according to CDC, no? Not according to what was shown in doubling time ni John Wong, the consultant of DOH. I'm getting people back to the concept of the CDC on flattening the curve. So here we see two curves again. No? One is black colored. That's the estimated one, yung kanina sinasabi ko na 80,000 per day or a total of 1.5 to 3.5 million if you total everything there for all days. No? And one which is a lower curve called colored violet. Yung violet na nandun sa baba. If you look at that endcoronavirus.org curve, yung ito, yung red line na yan, no? Lalagay natin yan mamaya. So the black curve is without intervention. It's a draconian measure. With intervention, yan yung merong ECQ. Yung black is without ECQ. Ito yung may ECQ, GCQ, at saka MECQ, no? Yung violet. So pag nilagay natin with appropriate scaling of the X and Y axis, that red line would be there. But you see that towards the end, it's rising again. It's still rising. No? Now, ano yung manifestation now that it's rising again? Of course, according to the CDC, there will be more hospital beds that will be utilized, more isolation beds, high ward beds, high mechanical ventilator utilization, and that is reflected already. So as of July 3, we already gave those warnings, no? Kasi we can see the metrics. We look at trends rather than daily numbers or absolute numbers because trends give more information than absolute values of numbers per day, no? So mas maganda tinitignan natin yung trends and you can actually make projections. So by that time na na-release namin, wala pang naniniwala dyan. Now, recently, nag-advisory, I think this was last week, and then kumama na sa atin yung yung mga overwhelming of hospitals. So that means na although for sometimes we have flattened the curve, hindi pa rin, no? Palagay ko ang mas magandang curve is na-delay natin. Na-delay natin yung peak and the peak is just about to come. What we're experiencing is the sudden rise towards the peak of the wave. So kailangan natin ng mga forecast ng mga nowcasts, forecasts and scenarios. This is how California does it or how other countries do it. We have the epidemic curve, how fast is the COVID spreading right now. It's a plot of new cases for each day. To interpret this, the lower the incidence, the better. So that means that the lower the bar, the better. The reproduction rate, if it's less than 1 or 1, that means that you're doing good. The lower the RT, the better. The goal of 1 is less. So, ang ibig sabihin lang naman yung RT1 is that if you are an infected person, you can only infect 1 other person. You do not infect 2. You do not infect 4. Kasi pag 4, the RT is 4. Pag 2, the RT is 2. But if it's 1, the spread is not going to be exponential. So mas limited 'yan. So that means magda-die out na lang yung yung virus. Now, case fatality rate is very important. You can see that. That's how you would know whether you are doing well as well. A measure of disease severity, generally the ratio of deaths over those who have healed. The lower the CFR number, the better. Recovery rate is also very important. The ratio of the total cumulative recoveries and cumulative number of infected cases. The higher the recovery rate, the better. Of course, I've discussed this. It's called the probability of outbreak. It's represented in maps at city and municipal level. The white parts in the map are good. So if your municipality is colored white, then that means you are faring well. But please be extra cautious. Okay, so it's available also in at municipal level. Of course, the doubling time is also very important, but not the only metric that should be used because there are other metrics. The higher the doubling time, the better. We have converted it into easier to understand graphs. So just look at the dot and see whether it's got a high doubling time or not. If it's a high doubling time, the higher the value, the better. Okay, so there are other graphs. You can see whether you're going down or not. And you can see this for the LGU, for information for the LGUs. Now, okay, if you want to do the statistics and if you have time to read 4,000 to 5,000 pages per day of statistics, it can also be downloaded in the website ncov.ph. Forecasts, we've done many forecasts. Many of them have turned out to be correct, no? And controversial as well kasi the public parang nilalaro nila na it's a source of parang competition when in fact it's really not supposed to be competition. We're not competing against each other. We're competing or we're trying to fight the virus. So everything that we do when we compete with each other, we are actually hurting ourselves. Because if we do that, if we hurt ourselves, na nakikipag-away tayo do sa ang nananalo ay yung virus. Okay, so grim warning, UPC studies, etc., etc. They've turned out to be correct, and the forecasts more or less have been fairly accurate, and we can do that or use that for decision making as the basis for making policy decisions, no? Correct policy decisions. Okay, so scenarios. This is the third type. What if? What if you do this? What if you do that? So if everybody cooperates, there will be different scenarios of the peak. It may be high or it may be low. So these can be modeled as well if we have the information. So this one is for the country, but for local areas, it can still be done provided that the data is available. Now, for scenarios, we've done it for schools. So I'm already predicting this. You can see it in the what do you call this? You can see it in the graphs. If we open schools, then the infection rate or reproduction number increases as well. But if we do not open schools, the physical schools, that's what I mean, no? Physical schools, then you significantly reduce the reproduction numbers to values that are very, very low. So I'm afraid that come the time na magkakaroon ng opening na naman ng physical schools, because initially I thought that there was going to be no face to face, but recently I've been seeing that there's going to be face-to-face interaction or blended learning, which I think will increase the reproduction number. Hopefully, it's not that high. But we've taken a look at the interactions with all age groups. We found out that the age group from 0 to 19 represents 56% of interactions. And when you think about this age group, uh, what comes to your mind or to my mind is that the interactions transpire during schools for that age group. Maybe for parties, but not that much, but mainly for schools. Scenarios for economics, there are jobs that boost the economy that are of high risk to COVID. There are some jobs that are of low risk uh, to COVID, but have a high value in boosting the economy. So the UP School of Economics have built scenarios as well on this. There are different scenarios, and we provide statements and analysis on such kinds of jobs. In fact, there's a platform where you can check your profile, your job, and find out the risk in terms of its overall score. We also have this facility which is also available to everybody. It's called as the Event R Calculator. So for example, magpapa-meeting kayo o kaya magra-rally o kaya magka-campaign, no? And you expect a number of people in the plaza. You can use the Event R Calculator and calculate the risk of infection, no? Whether you're going to get infected as well. It's called as the Event R Calculator. The average number of possible new infected individuals who are infected by COVID-19 positive cases in a certain event or local setting. So the inputs are event duration, average number of interactions, mean crowding density variance. But don't worry about that. There's a default value already. If you don't know transmission probability, don't worry about that. There are default values as well. But these are tools that can be used by LGU. We strive hard to analyze data at more granular level, hopefully to barangay level. And we strive hard, and so far we've been successful in providing the metrics online for the cities and municipalities. So what has happened so far, despite the draconian measures that we've implemented, yung ECQ and MECQ, no, we still have an increasing number of cases. Hopefully, that with that delay in the peak number of cases, we were able to prepare more facilities, get more quarantine facilities, get more ventilators, prepared for more isolation beds. No? But now that the number of cases are increasing again, so what we attribute that to is the inability for us to trace. No? Baguio is the only one that has been doing tracing. Maybe there are other LGUs who do well. No, those areas that are winning the battle against COVID. But I have yet to see on a national level or national scale really good tracing. And then that's the only way, because if we are able to identify a positive case, then we need to trace their contacts. No, from the time we knew that they were positive, minimum of 2 days, probably 3 days. All of the people they've come into contact with should have been traced. They should have been tested, isolated, and treated. If not, if not able to trace, then we are still spreading the virus, and that would be hard to contain. So probably that's the reason why we are not similar to the other countries, no, that have won or are winning the battle against COVID. So other recommendations include what businesses could be performed at home, do it at home. Physical school closure, we've said our piece. We are not decision makers. We are scientists, but we would like to implement that no that physical school closure be observed, no, kasi it will really increase the spread even in low risk areas, no. Even 1 or 2 cases in a densely populated area could spread out and become an outbreak. So accepting the new normal, physical distancing, and I gave this in this talk, about open data yesterday to Rappler. I think it's still available. You can view that. It took about 45 minutes to finish that talk. Another 45 minutes to answer the questions for open data for better decision making. So the other recommendations include, if you're able to survive the 4 months or more buying necessities online, then keep doing so. This would be good advice to your constituents. If you're able to survive seeing your friends and loved ones through the internet, then keep doing so. If you were able to survive doing your work from home, then keep doing so. If you were able to survive doing your studies at home, then keep doing so. If you're able to survive without partying, then stay so. If you were able to survive living simpler than before, then stay so. And if you were able to survive just limiting everything, then keep doing so. So the reason why there's GCQ is not solely because of addressing economic needs. It is not a call for you to go out and chill. Do not overact. Do your part instead. Survive each day as it comes and stay home if possible. No? If possible. So let's continue being part of flattening the curve. And I hope that I was able to explain in understandable manner the concepts that I presented in the slides. Thank you very much. If we work together, we will heal together. Thank you very much.
Yes, we heal as one. Thank you so much po, Dr. Mahar. Now, we are opening na po for our question and answer portion. So, kung may question po kayo, you can use the raise hand option. I will call you. All right, Mayor Bastian.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Yan.
I am Mayor Arestus of Barugo, Leyte. I was listening to your talk, sir. You mentioned that numbers are important. Actually, what we are worried is like DOH in our region is decreasing number of recoveries, which actually it doesn't tally with respective LGUs because what they do is every positive case they do not require anymore that those positive cases be subject to re-swab before they be considered as fully recovered. But like for instance, and
Pa, nawawala.
Mayor Marcel? Naputol po kayo, Mayor.
I, okay na, Winona.
Yes po, may audio na po.
Okay. Before kasi we allow our positive cases be reintegrated back to the community, we still subject them to two re-swabs. However, DOH does not do the same. That's why if it is not yet fully recovered as declared by LGUs, they already count it as recovered. So basically, it doesn't declare the exact number or true picture because parang hindi kami o hindi nagmamatch sa amin, not fully recovered yet, but DOH considered them as fully recovered. So yun.
Siyempre,
So basically,
mas maganda sa statistics yun. Yes
yung,
po, alam po namin yon that there are discrepancies talaga doon sa DOH numbers at saka doon sa LGU numbers, no? In fact, di ba nga dyan sa Cebu, merong ibang mga numbers, no, na sinabi na dapat isa lang ang number. So naintindihan po namin yon. If you look at the NCOV, that quick count site, meron pong facility din na pwedeng maglagay po yung LGU ng mga recovered na yon and so that on a daily basis makapag-release din po kami ng analytics similar to the analytics that we do or for the DOH data. So meron kaming DOH data at meron kaming quick count data analysis.
correct, sir. And then one more thing, sir, like the recent advisory of DOH which says that like specifically for Region 8 only. Or anyway, maybe it's the entire Philippines yung advisory. Kasi according to the DOH, this time they will no longer subject a particular individual to PCR test if they are asymptomatic. They will only allow PCR test for those symptomatic. However, like for instance, in our municipality, all our arrivals coming from outside the region are asymptomatic, but DOH does not allow them to be subjected to PCR test. So hindi pa rin sila, actually sir, they are claiming na parang lumabas na maganda na daw ang picture ng COVID-19 cases kasi nga bumaba, which we do not conform on.
Tama po kayo. Kung ako tatanungin niyo po, kasi marami talagang asymptomatic cases na turns out positive. So, if we do not test them and, we just let them go, they will be spreading the virus. I agree po with you.
Alright, thank you po, Mayor Marcel. May
Thank
iba
you.
pa po gustong magtanong? You can use the chat din po kung hindi po kayo makakonect with the audio. Meron pa po ba?
Okay na.
I think very clear po kasi yung presentation niyo, Dr. Mahar. But can we request po para masend din po namin sa kanila?
Sige po. Okay, no problem.
Sige po. If
Thank you.
wala na po kayong questions kay Dr. Mahar, can we ask for a photo op lang po? On po natin lahat ng video natin. Sure po kayo, wala na kayong question na pwede pa pong humabol.
Sige. Si Mayor Moreno. Hello. Hello, sir. Si Mayor.
Kumusta, Doc? Kumusta? Very nice presentation. I enjoyed
Thank
it.
you. Thank you
Ganda,
po.
ganda.
Alright, ready po for the picture? 1, 2, 3. Isa pa po. 1, 2, 3. Alright, maraming salamat po Dr. Mahar Lagmay for joining us today.
Salamat. Thank you. I'll
Thank you
still
po.
be around and listen to Mayor Moreno's talk.
Yes
Sige,
po.
thank you. Thank you.
Thank you po. Alright. And Dr. Mahar, please feel free po na magstay kung may extra time po kayo. Ang next speaker po natin ay si Mayor Oscar Moreno. And I'd like to briefly introduce him po. Serving the people the best way possible. True to his brand of leadership, Cagayan de Oro earned a seat in the Hall of Fame of the Seal of Good Education Governance after bagging the awards in 3 consecutive years, from 2017 to 2019. His city also ranked the second most resilient city under the Cities and Municipalities Competitiveness Index. Aside from him being an excellent mayor, he is also deemed as a great corporate lawyer. He served as a legal counsel of major financial institutions in the country, such as Bank of the Philippine Islands, Citibank, Ayala Life Assurance, just to name a few. He then became the Vice President and Chief Legal Counsel of BPI Capital Corporation. And now to discuss developing effective communication strategies for public health, please welcome from Cagayan de Oro, Mayor Oscar Moreno.
Thank you. Thank you very much, ma'am, for that kind, generous introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. Magandang hapon kay Dr. Lagmay. I really liked his presentation. Napakaganda, napakalinaw, and I hope to have a copy of his presentation para magiyahan din kami, and I'd be honored kung if he will stay for my presentation para I could also get his thoughts. I know na itong sa amin ano pa hindi yung malayo pa sa ideal yun siguro, no? So good afternoon again, everyone. Just a brief backgrounder of Cagayan de Oro City and Region 10. Itong Region 10 plus Lanao del Sur used to be the province of Misamis in the old days during the Spanish era. And just like Davao, just like Cotabato, just like Zamboanga. And now Mindanao has more or less 30 provinces. The old Misamis is now 6 provinces. Yung 5 that compose Region 10 and Lanao del Sur. Of course, Lanao del Sur is part of ARMM, but that did not remove them from the map. Lanao del Sur still is less than 2 hours away from Cagayan de Oro. So next slide, please. Next slide. Ito yung challenges namin, and as I formulated the challenges for for my talk. I did realize na yun palang challenges ang pinaka advantages din namin in normal times. Cagayan de Oro has grown because it is a convergent city. It is a trading hub, a transport hub, business center, education center, flagship city, hospital care center, and talagang people come here from all directions. The first public high school in this part of Mindanao was established here in Cagayan de Oro in 1906. The first public clinic was established in 1917, no? Because of the strategic location of Cagayan de Oro, right in the middle of the upper half of Mindanao. Isang challenge din namin is itong hospital, main COVID referral hospital for the region, the Northern Mindanao Medical Center or NMMC, is based here in Cagayan de Oro. But the most difficult challenge, limitation that we had to bear for some time was wala kaming testing capacity. We were reliant solely on RITM and then nagkaroon ng lockdown. So we had to look for other sources. Buti malapit lang ang Davao, mga 7-8 hours lang. And then Cebu sometimes, no? It was only in May or a few months after sa onset ng COVID na ang Northern Mindanao Medical Center started with their gene expert. Now, meron na silang 3 na gene expert. And then as I speak now, meron ng RT-PCR ang DOH Region 10, 2 RT-PCR bought by the city and 1 extractor. And then meron kaming ilalagay na 2 RT-PCR sa NMMC. Again, binili ng city plus 1 extractor. The difficulty, the very, very devastating and call it awesome, daunting difficulty that we went through na mahirap ma-address was wala kaming testing. And alam natin, ang virus, bago, wala pang maka-explain and all that. No? So it was like we were in total darkness. Next slide, please. So we had to adopt measures. No? And one of the things that we did was itong daily press briefing, which we started March 13. And kanina we had our 114th daily press briefing. Dahil araw-araw ito except only on Sundays and Good Friday. Independence Day, we had our daily press briefing. And even sa Charter Day of the city, we also had our press briefing. And the intention was very simple. We are able to give the people information regarding, number one, the region, dahil Cagayan is the center of the region. And of course, yung mga radio stations are mostly based here in Cagayan de Oro. Information about the region, information about Northern Mindanao Medical Center, the main COVID referral hospital, but actually NMMC also covers some of the cases of Lanao del Sur, given the proximity. No? And then third, so region, NMMC, and then Cagayan de Oro. Yan ang palagi naming sequence, no, sa aming presentation. The participants, buti nakausap ko ng DOH, Region 10, and they helped us. Although ngayon, hindi na sila masyadong sumisipot, but we still continue to brief the people on the situation as far as the region is concerned. No? And DOH has been following our daily press briefing as well. Northern Mindanao Medical Center, talagang very key yung participation nila. Of course, the PNP and the City Health Office. And itong Northern Mindanao Medical Center, ang presentation nila every day essentially covers yung mga cases doon sa ERID, yung emerging and re-emerging infectious diseases. Ito yung may mga respiratory angles from January 31 up to the day before the press briefing, no? So every day yan, every day. And we would talk about the admissions, about the discharges, about the recoveries, even about the deaths, no? And in the meantime, sa city government naman, sa ating city hospital, and then sa ating city health center. I'll explain to you later why yung city health center has played a very crucial role as well. So next slide, please. Ito yung mga, I would, now looking back, nakita ko ito yung mga strategic moves that we have made na nag-strengthen ng ating mga countermeasures and ating teamwork dito sa Cagayan de Oro. Number one, when we agreed na NMMC shall be the main COVID referral hospital for the region. Actually, for Cagayan de Oro and Misamis Oriental, the sole COVID referral hospital. How did this happen? Nangyari ito dahil early on as the pandemic erupted, in-announce ng DOH na all COVID positive patients shall be admitted sa mga secondary and tertiary hospitals. Now, as I've said kanina, Cagayan de Oro is the hospital care center, not just of the region, but even for the upper half of Mindanao. No? And marami kaming malalaking private hospitals dito, aside from NMMC. Although NMMC is the apex hospital. Alam niyo, the first reaction of the private hospital administrators was one of really vigorous opposition. Ayaw nila na maging COVID referral hospital sila. Of course, these were doctors and alam nila ang problema, alam nila ang dangers of the virus and so on. Kaya they first came to my office and telling me na mahirap talaga if they will also be admitting COVID patients. Magkakabuhol-buhol and magkakagulo and so on and so forth. No? Now, I was worried dahil how could now what would happen to the city kung if they refuse admission of COVID patients. Incidentally, the first COVID positive case in Mindanao was confined in NMMC. Although hindi taga Cagayan de Oro yun, he was from Marawi, no? But dito ang first admission ng COVID patient sa Mindanao. Mabuti na lang ang DOH Region 10 agreed to sort of underwrite an agreement. Nagkasundo ngayon, private hospitals on one hand, Northern Mindanao Medical Center on the other hand, and on the kabila naman, ang city government representing the city hospital and the city health center. Ang kasunduan was lahat ng COVID referral COVID cases shall be referred to Northern Mindanao Medical Center. But in return, we were able to convince the private hospitals na kailangan ma-decongest ang NMMC. So, lahat ng mga minor cases ng NMMC should now be downloaded or accepted, admitted sa the other hospitals, no? Especially childbirths. So, ang sa childbirth naman, nung panganak, binoluntaryo ko yung ating city health centers, no? We have a total of 54 and then all around the city, but at the mga 30 ang functioning for childbirths, no? So I told our city health officer, Dr. Neri, we have to do some hard selling para yung mga anak doon na sa ating health centers, no? Now, sa awa ng Diyos, maganda ang arrangement. I know now na ang DOH has been trying to somehow strike a similar deal in other cities that na medyo overwhelmed na because biro mo ang nangyayari kahit saan ang COVID patients, ang cost efficiency certainly suffers, no? Pag-maintain, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yung mga doktor, no? So, pasalamat din ako sa NMMC, Northern Mindanao Medical Center, for, sabi ko sa kanila, for the courage that they had displayed, no? They could have said no to that arrangement. At tatanggap rin sila, but not as the sole COVID referral hospital, but they agreed. And for that, we are all eternally grateful. The second, I think, achievement that we did was itong intensified focus surveillance. Actually, ang philosophy namin dito is, kasi a doctor suggested to me early on, dahil siyempre, wala tayong testing capacity. Just imagine the anxiety, the wild speculations that flew all over. Every time na may pumasok doon sa NMMC na suspect pa lang, no? Hindi pa proven na positive dahil papadala pa lang yung swab sa testing capacity, and it would take us easily 10 days to wait for the test result, no? Kaya ang napaka no, parang every day was a suspenseful day and thriller. Nag-aantay sa result, and in the meantime, speculations had been flying wildly kahit na meron kaming daily press briefing. So, one of the things that we did was yung intensified focus surveillance. What was this? Ginather namin yung aming BHW, BNS, BHERS, pati yung CDVs, itong Community Development Volunteers. Itong CDV I formed this way back in 2014 to handle our PhilHealth insurance program. Dahil itong PhilHealth insurance program, meron yung per family payment rate, yung profiling. And for every family or member that is profiled, merong binabayad ang PhilHealth niyan na that used to be capitation fund, no? Pero ngayon, per family payment rate na yan, no? So kailangan asikasuhin mo yung profiling for the LGU to earn the rate, no? So I organized that group, and ano yan, for every barangay, meron at least dalawa, tatlo. So they had to profile their residents in their barangays. So I thought na kabisado nila ang mga tao sa kanilang barangay, so they could be good candidates para sa surveillance. The strategy really is for the group, numbering mga total of more than 1,000 in separate clusters, no? to go to each household and talagang parang house-to-house campaign and to inquire, investigate kung meron bang may ARI and ILI symptoms, no? And then kung may na-report sila, susunod na dyan yung city health officials to address the symptoms. And then malaking tulong din ito in contact tracing, etc. No? And of course in developing pati itong mga ROF LSI na dumidiretso sa barangay dahil ang consciousness ng mga tao has risen. So nagre-report kaagad yan kung may dumarating na hindi na kwarantina, no? So very, very helpful na nabigyan sila ng role that also became a source of information for the team. So yung sa amin, yung informasyon ng team, DOH, NMMC, city government, emanated from yung information that NMMC would give us every day sa kanilang mga patients, and then marami kaming na ano doon na maraming mga analysis that had been drawn from that information. And ito rin dito ko rin nakita how important the testing facility is, no? So as early as March, nag-order na kami ng 4 na RT-PCR plus 2 extractor para talagang I personally experienced how difficult it was na wala kang testing. And so ngayon meron pang, aside from NMMC, aside from DOH, meron pang private hospital, ang Polymedic, may isang RT-PCR, meron pa rin isang RT-PCR sa Maria Reina Xavier University. For both private hospitals, tumulong din ang city. We provided them with consumables worth 500,000. Now, another, what I would consider as a good strategy that we have adopted, yung ating pag-set up ng city isolation unit and temporary treatment facilities to address the new arrivals, the ROFs, LSI, no? And those needing quarantine, ito yung mga naka-close contact, positive and all that, no? That so kailangan ng quarantina. So in the beginning, we considered classrooms or basketball courts para sa quarantina, pero medyo alanganin. I felt na awkward na ganun ang ating quarantine facility. So ang ginawa ko, I talked to the hotels and the accommodation establishments. After all, that time, bawal pa mag-operate ang mga hotels, no? So I talked to them, and also I talked to some big groups na merong parang retreat house. Nakiusap ako if we can use them para sa ating quarantine program. And buti naman pumayag, no? So malaking bagay ito. Alam ko many cities had already advocated na ihinto muna yung arrivals na yan dahil mabigat eh. Pero ang ginawa namin, sabi ko, we have to accept them. After all, they are from Cagayan de Oro. And upon their arrival, dapat hindi sila makauwi sa bahay nila. Diretso sila sa quarantina. The reason was, paano kung positive? Kung umuwi sila, kumalat yung virus. So, sabi ko, I knew na in the beginning, lumalaki ang positive namin. But largely from the ROF LSI. Kaya lalo akong naging determined na ROF LSI must be quarantined. Kailangan asikasuhin talaga. So, I think that has played a very significant role. As I will show to you later, mas marami na ang positive sa ROF-LSI kumpara sa local cases. And then, although marami, but asymptomatic, halos lahat sa kanila asymptomatic. So, being asymptomatic, hindi kailangan dalhin sa hospital. Pwede na sa quarantine, provided that the isolation facilities are properly handled. The way we have structured it, yung upon arrival, doon papasok sa CIU, City Isolation Units, no? And then, isoswab yan after 6 days, 7 days or so, no? Isoswab yan. And then, kung negative, uwi na sila. And continue with their home quarantine in their respective residences. Kung positive, we will elevate them to the TTMF, yung temporary treatment and monitoring facility. And then one other strategy that we have resorted to, yung imposition ng limited and focused quarantine. Ito to address local cases, especially in areas that are densely populated, and then ang mga kapitbahay are very close to each other, and so on and so forth. No? So, nakatulong din pag-address to arrest the further containment, further infection ng virus. Next slide, please. Ito yung example ng containment. This is just a small one consisting of 4 or 5 zones in one barangay. Mabuti na lang merong bus company na naging boundary ng barangay dahil kung wala itong bus company, oh my God, this would have been a lot more densely populated. Pero ito, this is a classic example. Walang mga daan ito. So, ang ating City Disaster Risk Reduction together with the City Health Office and the police had to formulate the containment program. Ang advantage namin dahil meron kaming epidemiologist dito sa Cagayan de Oro. So far we have done siguro mga 4 or 5 cases like this, no? The first time we did this was in Sitio Piniquitan, and then one in Sayas, one in Makanhan, another one in Dabatian, another one in Agusan, another one in Kauswagan, and this is the seventh, no? Good for 14 days or longer, depende. Now, as soon as the containment is done, yung members of the household and those in close contact with the positive client, dinadala na rin namin sa CIU and isoswab din in due time. Next slide, please. Ito yung intensified surveillance. Actually, ang importante nito yung 4th line from the left, no? Itong number of households that the 3 groups have covered. The blue line is that of the CDVs, the households that they have visited. The next line in orange is the number of households visited by VHWs and VNS. No? And then the third line, yung composite group ng tatlo. Yung 4th is the aggregate of all that 3 groups. No? So, since April, the group has covered 192,000 plus households. Ano to? Talagang house to house. Checking kung merong ARI and ILI. Yung dalawang lines that are connected to the right side, ito yung result na ng finding ng nabisitahan na ng health personnel and na-address na nila, no? So, meron na lang 7.99% for a total of 424 reported ailments na hindi pa na-address. No? This was as of July 23. Next slide, please. I would like to show also other slides. No? Ito yung as of July 23, ito yung report namin sa region. Yung admitted, 6 na lang. 2 lang ang local cases, 4 ang ROF-LSI. But the two important figures as well are yung outpatient, ito yung nasa quarantina and recovered. And sa local cases, you'll note 18 and 28 respectively, the numbers have already been overtaken by the outpatient for the ROF-LSI. So, although marami ang positive na ROF-LSI, karamihan sa kanila are outpatient dahil asymptomatic. And then kung outpatient, madali na lang yung recovery. Just a matter of 14 days or so. No? So, ito yung, ang aming vision dito is yung dalawang linya ng recovered, yung blue and red, mas mahaba na kaysa linya ng outpatient. In other words, nag-recover na sila. So, we're getting there. We're getting there. Next slide, please. Ito yung sa Cagayan de Oro City lang. No? Same principle. Currently admitted isa, yung ROF-LSI. Outpatient ROF, 53. More than 10 times the quarantine clients sa local cases. And then ang recovered, 16 sa local, 42. In just a matter of weeks, mabilis ang recovery rate sa ROF-LSI. So kaya sinasabi ko, alam ko yung ibang regions had been declining receiving the ROF-LSI. So pero sabi ko, kung hindi natin tanggapin, saan sila pupunta? And then pangalawa, kung hindi natin asikasuhin, uuwi at uuwi yan sa kanilang mga residences. And then if they are able to do so, kung positive sila, marami silang mahahawaan. So this is really a preemptive strategy. Next slide, please. Ito yung just on one day as of July 22, yung ROF-LSI nasa CIU, yung number nasa right side, 469. 469. Itong mga linya sa first day, second day, hindi pa na-swab. Hindi pa na-swab. Yung yellow, ito yung number of those na na-swab that are awaiting results. No? And hopefully, kung negative sila, malibre na. Now, question was asked, bakit nagsuswab na kayo after 6-7 days? Ang rason kasi dahil kung 14 days ang quarantina and we only have about 600 rooms, we can only accommodate those arriving in the first 6 days, assuming na 100 arrivals in a day. Dahil in 6 days, lahat ng rooms will be occupied na. And mag-aantay ka na naman ng 14 days. Kaya mahirap. Kaya sabi ko, we have to strategize para katong yung mga negative, pwede na nating ipauwi, no? And continue with their quarantine at home. After all, negative naman sila. After all, hindi naman sila galing sa positive, no? So this strategy is I think working. Next slide, please. Ito yung sa TTMF. Ito na yung yung nag-test positive sa swab, no, RT-PCR. So we have 3 TTMF facilities and number of clients there are 80 na nakatira as of July 23. And ang total capacity to the rightmost side is 98. So merong unoccupied rooms, meron ding na-discharge for that day. So, ito rin, binahatira natin ng pagkain, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Kaya at i-check ko rin kung tama ba yung mga pagkain na hinatid. Kaya with this number and CIU, mga 600 lang, less than 600. Kung ang report ng hinatid ng pagkain is 1,500, something's wrong. Kaya, pero actually, ang ano nito is para ma-manage. Just like a hotel, no, yung ating mga CIUs and TTMF. Para dahil disinfection, etc., etc., etc. Next slide, please. Ito yung ano, yung recoveries. We started with the week ng July 2, week ng July 9. The figures here worth looking at are the blue and the reds, no? Yung yellow saka na yon. Yellow ang green saka na yon. Yung blue muna and red. Yung blue ang local cases na recovered. Sa July 2, 17 na sila na recovered. Cumulative ito. July 9, 17 pa rin. July 16, nadagdagan ng 5. And then July 22, nadagdagan ng 6. Good result. Pero look at the results sa ROF-LSI. July 2, 19. 1 week after, 39 na ang nag-recover. More than double. Another week after that, mas malaki pa. Mas malaki pa. More than double, lumalaki pa. And then another week from 98 to 154. So, very encouraging, no? Kaya itong alam ko in the beginning people were worried, apprehensive na bakit tatanggapin namin yung ROF LSI dahil other cities have refused acceptance of these people, no? Pero sabi ko, alam mo, kawawa naman ito mga ROF lalo. Mga bayani ito in good times. And then, siyempre, with the pandemic, yung mga musikero sa mga cruise ships had to endure termination of contract. And then doon sa Middle East, marami rin ang mga projects that had been stopped, no? So they had no choice but to come home. They were, in fact, I would suspect na talagang for self-preservation, mga countries in the Middle East may have had to somehow purge yung mga non-citizens nila, no? So kawawa naman ang Metro Manila. Isa pa ang ang anggulo ko is kung hindi natin sila tanggapin sa mga probinsya, doon sila mag-accumulate sa Metro Manila and neighboring areas. Now, we have to be conscious na Metro Manila and Calabarzon together, they constitute more than 2/3 of the economy of our country. And kung masyadong burden yung mga areas na yan because of these ROFs, hirap din sila sa kanilang economy. And impact on the economy of these areas will certainly affect the rest of the country. Kaya sabi ko, we have to help them with this burden. And by helping them, we are also helping the entire country. Total, nagre-recover naman. Ang importante lang is naasikaso. Next slide, please. Ito yung sa Cagayan de Oro. Kanina yung sa Region 10 yon, no? Ito, Cagayan de Oro. Look at the red. Ito yung ROF. From 6, naging 7 the week after. Dagdagan ng 5 the week after. And then from 12, naging 42. Wow. More than 3 times. More than 3 times. And then, increase din ang number of recoveries sa local cases. Kaya you will please note na ang ating active cases, lumiliit din. From 70, bumaba sa 58. And yung mga charts ni Dr. Lagmay, magandang kopyahin yon, magandang ito sa amin very crude lang, Doc, if you're still there. Next slide, please. Ito yung mga testing. This is the picture as far as the region is concerned, as far as the DOH Region 10 RT-PCR testing facility. Total of 2,821 since they started July 1. Actually, they started June 17, no? Pero kinover lang ang from July 1. 2,821 and 303 ang nag-prove na positivity rate of 10.74. You'll please note na kasama nito ang outside Region 10. Ito na yung Lanao del Sur, ito na yung Zamboanga del Norte and probably even Pagadian and the upper half of Caraga region. Dahil kaya importante talaga ang testing facility. Next slide please. Ito yung sa Cagayan de Oro lang. Cagayan de Oro lang yung testing testing facility pa rin sa DOH. But looking at Cagayan de Oro alone, no? So total of 2,087 ang test and then positive of 130 or a positivity rate of 6.22. And next slide please. Okay. So maraming salamat sa lahat. Salamat sa grupo for the kind invitation. I'm honored to have spoken before you this afternoon. And maraming salamat po and good afternoon.
Thank you very much din po, Mayor Oscar, for the presentation. Ngayon po, question and answer portion na po tayo ulit. I'm sure marami po sa inyong mayors na makaka-relate dahil yung speaker natin ay a mayor himself. So, chance nyo na po ito to ask your questions if you have any. Mayor June,
Hello.
you'd like to ask po.
Pwede na po. Mayor?
Yeah, Mayor
Ah.
John.
Mayor, tanong lang po ako,
Yes.
mga magkano po nagastos nyo sa dalawang testing machine nyo?
At the time we bought,
Saka, apat, no? Apat binili nyo? At saka
apat po yun.
Mga magkano po?
Yung RT-PCR at the time binili namin noong March was 2.4, 2.5. Ngayon, ang narinig ko, umabot na ng 4 million. Dahil I think more and more LGUs now are buying. Pero baka may mahanap pa ng mga not more than 3. Baka may mahanap pa, Mayor.
Mga DOH po nag-set up sa inyo? O kayo po? Kano katagal yung processing nyo po?
Alam mo, ang sa
At
amin,
napatakbo nyo?
ang nangyari kasi, alam ko mahirap mag-set up from the start, no? Alam ko mahirap, dadaan pa ng testing yan, WHO standards pa. What we did was, sa DOH, meron kasing laboratory dyan for TB. And yung laboratory na yan already meets generally the standards for RT-PCR with some adjustments, no? So, ang ginawa namin, sabi ko sa DOH, ako ang bibili ng RT-PCR, i-convert natin, gawin din nating testing facility. As early as February, sulat ako sa DOH asking for the establishment of a testing facility, no? Follow-up ako ng follow-up, pero alam ko mahirap, kaya sabi ko, kami na lang bibili, basta gamitin yung facility nila. Now, which they agreed. So they are now, it's now in their facility, and but that's being operated in collaboration with NMMC. Ang NMMC, gene expert ang kanilang Maganda rin ang gene expert, pero I think mas practicable ang RT-PCR. Now, pero we will be putting up, we'll be adding 2 RT-PCR sa NMC. Mga 2.5 million ang ano niyan, Mayor. Ang extractor is mga I think less than 2 million ang extractor. The purpose of the extractor is dahil itong RT-PCR, diyan ilalagay yung mga samples, no? Pero from the swabbing to the putting sa sample sa RT-PCR, meron pang segregation na gagawin. And kung manual yan, it takes time. That's the job of the extractor. So the extractor, ang resulta ng extractor is the result of the RT-PCR is doubled by using the extractor. And then mas accurate pa ang proseso kay wala nang room for human error.
Okay. Thank you po, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Right, thank you din po, Mayor June, for your question. May iba pa po bang gustong magtanong? Yes po, go po, Mayor Sherry.
Hi, Mayor Oscar. Mayor Sherry Ann po from Pagbilao, Quezon.
Ay, Mayor.
Oo, may itatanong lang po ako. Paano niyo po dinidispose yung mga waste? Sorry po. How do you dispose your blood samples for the blood collection from the possible patient?
I am Maximus.
Yes, sorry. He's a mayor. Sorry.
Hello.
Sorry.
Hello. I want.
Oh, yes.
Mama.
Excuse me. Sorry po. Paano niyo po na-dispose yung mga blood na nakokolekta po ninyo sa mga positive patient at saka po dun sa mga close contact patient? Thank you po.
Actually po, Mayor, ang nagkukuha ng mga samples na yan are personnel na who are authorized, no? And licensed. And then doon niya dinadala sa laboratory, and then meron tayong yung disposition ng mga dangerous, hazardous materials. Alam ko yan, very strict ang protocol niyan. Hindi nga ako nakapasok diyan sa laboratory na yan dahil siyempre ang bigat ng niyan bigat ng standards, and highly designed na safe, no? So pati yung disposition ng mga waste, meron din silang protocol na sinusunod.
Thank you, Mayor. Kasi po dito po sa amin, meron po kaming kalapit na bayan through the effort of our good governor na doon na lang po kami nagpapaswab test kasi 8 kilometers away lang po yung munisipyo namin papunta sa kanila. So, minsan talagang, excuse me ma'am, kung talaga pong medyo pila pa, para lang po for peace of mind, kahit po mababa yung accuracy, minsan po gumagamit kami ng mga rapid test kits, po. So paggamit po namin, usually nilalagay lang po namin siya sa mga vault. Meron po kaming vault sa amin pong sanitary landfill. Pero po, syempre po may certain portion po ng blood na kinokolekta. So ang nangyayari lang po, pinagsasama-sama lang po namin yon. Hindi po namin alam pa rin yung effect sa solid waste management kung ilang taon ba namin yun pwedeng buksan o yung seepage po ba papunta sa lupa. So, sige po, explore po namin yon.
I suggest strongly, Mayor, na konsultahin ninyo ang DOH dahil yan hazardous material. So, meron talagang specific protocol yan. Kahit probably mas mahigpit than ordinary hospital waste.
Thank you, Mayor. Salamat po.
You're welcome, Mayor.
Thank you for the question, Mayor Sherry. May iba pa po bang gustong magtanong? anything you'd like to ask po about containment or sa mga testing capacity ng LGU? Baka po may gusto kayong itanong kay Mayor Oscar. Last call. Alright, if wala na po, mag-photo op na po ulit tayo. I think yung mga lumabas po na questions dito sa second batch, very timely po dahil sa next webinar po natin, we will be having a speaker from DOH. So I hope makarating po kayo doon. Alright, ready na po for the photo. Pa-on na lang po ng video natin. Right, ready po? 1, 2, 3. Isa pa po. 1, 2, 3. Alright, maraming salamat po ulit, Mayor Oscar.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good afternoon.
Thank
And
you, Mayor. Thank you.
Salamat. Doc, salamat.
And now to synthesize naman po and for his closing remarks, let's all welcome the lead convener of Kaya Natin Movement, Mr. Harvey.
Thank you, Winona. First of all, maraming salamat ulit kay Dr. Mahar Lagmay and of course sa idol natin si Mayor Oscar Moreno. We are very privileged that we have these two wonderful speakers with us today. Of course, the mayors of LEAP, our Kaya Natin mayors, maraming salamat at sana na marami kayo natutunan sa ating session today. We hope that in the future sessions, we will be able to continue to help you in managing this pandemic. Noong nag-umpisa tayo, wala pa masyadong mga cases sa mga probinsya. But as we see, as the weeks pass by, dumadami na. But I think ang ganda ng sinabi ni Mayor Oscar Moreno, no? That was an eye-opener for me. Nasabi niya, most naman daw ng mga LSIs and the returning OFWs are actually asymptomatic or even mild patients, kaya they're able to recover quickly. And sabi nga niya, ang ganda yung sinabi niya, no? Itong mga RF or ROF natin, ito yung mga bagong bayani na sinasabi natin noon. Tapos ngayon, ayaw natin babalikin sa atin, di ba? So, thank you, Mayor Oscar, for that very eye-opening insight that instead of shunning them away, perhaps it's better that our LGUs are prepared to welcome them, to help them recover, and to help them become more productive citizens in our respective LGUs. Kay Dr. Mahar naman, as always, the insights are very good. I always look forward to listening to him because I think we should attack this problem from a data and science evidence-based approach. Hindi dapat siya bara-bara. Kasi kung bara-bara, wala mangyayari talaga sa atin. So that's why it's very important that we have our data properly. We contribute to data gathering. We do our own share as LGU officials. And of course, back always ang actions natin by science and by evidence. No? At the same time, I'd also like to thank all the mayors here. I think many times we celebrate our frontliners, our doctors, our nurses, our police. Pero hindi nila alam na ang mayors, kayo yung talagang frontliners din, di ba? Kayo yung bumababa sa mga barangay, chinecheck nyo yung mga quarantine facilities, kayo yung mga nag-check kung kamusta yung mga purok, sityo ninyo, kinakausap ninyo yung mga police, kinakausap ninyo yung mga health workers. So you are also very much exposed. And I think this is our own small way of helping you to be able to serve better, to lead better. And we'd like to also thank you for your service, of course, to our nation. Alam namin na ang laki ng contribution ng LG officials in trying to stop the growth of COVID-19. And then, maganda yung parating tanong ni Mayor Junjun, parang yung pagsiset up ng RT-PCR laboratory. Feeling ko talagang malaking issue yun sa kanya, sa Iloilo ni Mayor Junjun. No? There are a lot of groups that are actually setting it up. They just are looking for LGU partners. Parang for example, may nakausap akong private group, they're saying na we can we can actually set it up. Ito yung price, everything, pati hanggang accreditation. But it will take you mga 30 to 45 working days. So that's practically mga 2 months, no? To set it up. So there are already groups that you can approach. Parang you just have to sign a MOA with them. There are even groups that have approached us and said that if you can, the only thing that we would need from an LGU is a good space that we can lease. And then sa kanila na daw lahat ng gastos, di ba? Pero they have to be assured lang of X number of ano ba yan? Na itetest per year para daw sulit yung kanilang investment. So marami na, no? We just need to, if you really are interested, I can
Tawag
give
ako sa'yo
you the
mamaya,
effort.
sir.
Sige.
Okay lang po ba? Tawagan ko.
Sige, usap tayo mamaya. Sige, so parang yun lang, no? But if you really want those kinds of things, and it's very important. Sabi nga ni Dr. Brian Lim nung first talk natin, di ba? Mas maganda sana if you have your own testing facility that can cover your area. So again, thank you to our speakers. Thank you to everyone that's been attending our LEAP sessions. Sabi nga ni Winona, we will invite someone from DOH. Dati DepEd, di ba? Ngayon DOH naman. Pero ang pakiusap na tayo, huwag nyo naman awayin. So, alam ko marami kayong issue sa DOH. So, baka matakot na yung mga yon na umattend ng ating mga webinars. So, we will make sure. So, wag niyong awayin, ha? Just make sure that we have a civilized and discussion with them. Okay. So, thank you, Winona. Thank you to our mayors.
Thank you, Sir Harvey, and salamat po sa lahat ng ating busy mayors, pero nag-take some time to join us today. Prepare po kayo for our next webinar. Ready nyo na po yung mga questions, and we'll see you soon. Salamat po. Thank you for your service.
Bye!
Bye! Salamat po!
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.